You know, in entrepreneurship, we face obstacles all the time, and you just have to roll with the punches. So if I had to stop and count all my failures, like I'd be sitting down the whole day just listening. So I really don't stop to count my failures. Like I always know that there's something next.
Welcome back to the Tea with Nikki. We're pro-tea, not anti-coffee. On the Tea with Nikki, we have candid conversations with women who are the leaders in their industry, whether it's from the corporate office to the sports field or their own entrepreneurship endeavor. And we speak about failure and leadership. Today, I sit down with Nobukhosi Dlamini, who is the founder of tech consultancy for cybersecurity and data protection, Bahati Tech. We speak about her journey to being internationally recognized as an incredible female entrepreneur in the tech space, what she has done within her industry as well, and helping women to gain technical skills with coding and software development, as well as helping 50 women and SMMEs go digital from being in the traditional space. I also would like to just tell a bit about the story of before we got to having our conversation. As you can see, I'm not in my usual blue room. I'm actually in my office at Salt Recruitment in town. We were going to film in the Future Females co-working space, but unfortunately the lift was not working and the emergency doors only opened from the inside, so we weren't able to climb the stairs, otherwise we would have. Then we tried to go to another location, but it was closed, and eventually one of my colleagues, Super Suze, helped me by lending me her key so that I could unlock this space and come and have a wonderful conversation with Nobukhosi. And on top of that, which I was stoked about, I got to drink my funny cup mug of I really don't give a fuck. But I did today, and I was stressed, and I just want to thank Nobukhosi once more. Thank you so much for your patience and your kindness. I really do appreciate it. I know you're a Future Females Business School alumni as well. You started Bahati Tech. It's a tech consultancy firm. But 2020 has also been an extremely exciting year for you, or the beginning of it at least. You went to the UK and you received an award. You were one of how many women who received an award?
Oh, I think there were about 10 of us from across the continent. We went there just to explore business opportunities in the UK. Because we obviously have businesses across Africa, and looking at how we can grow and create more sustainable enterprises.
So when you say create more sustainable enterprises, what do you mean exactly?
Well, we had a couple of mentoring sessions, but also just looking at opportunities in the UK for our businesses, because as entrepreneurs we're always looking for the next thing.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm here now. What is the next thing?
Yes.
What are other markets that I could venture into? So.
And is it true that you got to meet the Duke and Duchess? How was it meeting royalty?
That was very nice. We went to a conference, or a summit rather. Senior delegates from governments across Africa. So we had a reception dinner at Buckingham Palace, and we got to meet them, and he said a few words.
Did you spoke as well at the UK South Africa inaugural summit?
Spoke in the closing session. Initially I was supposed to speak in the opening session, but there was a lot of drama with travel, and I arrived on the morning. So the organizers decided it's probably better if we delay it to the close, because they weren't sure exactly what time I'd be able to leave. So I spoke in the closing session.
And what did you speak on?
I spoke about opportunities that African entrepreneurs present, because there were a lot of investors there. So the whole idea of that summit was to match people who had businesses or were looking for funding, private entrepreneurs, but also governments, so even governments at that level, and also provincial governments. So for example, our premier in the Western Cape was there to seek foreign investment from the UK into the Western Cape. So it was at that level, like national government, like provincial governments, and also individual entrepreneurs. So I really just spoke about what we as entrepreneurs feel is the best way we would like to engage with them, and what opportunities we think we bring to the table, and why they should invest in us. Which I think is a good idea, because a lot of these high-level meetings, often it's government leaders speaking, it's banks, it's the World Bank and so on, and you never really get to hear the voice of the entrepreneur, which are the people who are the ones who are generating value at the end of the day. So I think that was quite a fortunate opportunity for me especially, but also just in general for female entrepreneurs to be represented at that level, to say this is what we think, this is how we feel, because sometimes it gets really technical, and we really are simple and direct about what we want to see.
And this isn't the first time you've received international recognition for your work and your entrepreneurial endeavors. You were also one of 108 women in tech who went to Silicon Valley and participated in a program there. Can you tell us a bit more about that as well? This was in 2019.
That was last year, yes. It does feel like much further back, but it was just last year. US government program, the State Department seeks female in STEM, not just in tech. So across the world. So at the end of it, there were 108 from across the world, and from South Africa, I think we were about 5 or 6. And it really is an exchange program, but also a cultural program for us to explore what the US has to offer, and to spend a couple of weeks in a Silicon Valley organization that is aligned with what I'm doing locally, to learn and to engage and to build those networks, because like I said earlier, we're always trying to look at the next thing. So it really was a good program, in that even today I'm still using those networks, I'm still reaching out in terms of building my company and developing a strategy going forward. But what was really good about it wasn't just about business, there was the cultural side of it, which is quite important, and also being able to come back and create impact projects, which is also another element that is part of the program. So it was a really good program, and I always encourage other women to try and get into it. It's a very competitive process. I think I was selected on my 4th attempt.
Oh, wow.
So I applied a number of years and got rejected before I actually made it in. It is very competitive, but I think it's worth it. I think sometimes you apply for something once and you don't get it. You should always try again. And this year I nominated another friend of mine who is in the same industry, and she was selected, so I was very happy about that.
That's awesome. Good for her. Incredible. So you're speaking about your consultancy and being in tech. What is it exactly that Bahati Tech does?
So we're a cybersecurity and data protection company, and we really help organizations that use tech or develop tech to be able to use it in a way that is responsible, firstly, when working with people's information. We're lucky now that there's so many laws around data protection that try to protect citizens with how their information is being used or accessed or shared. Previously, companies had carte blanche in terms of how they used information, and now in South Africa, for example, we've got the POPI Act. In Europe, they have the GDPR. In California, they've got the CCPA and so on. And we really now help companies to comply with those laws, but in so doing, it also helps them to be more responsible. And our key message is it's not just about ticking a compliance checkbox, it's about improving the customer experience and building trust with the customer, because if you feel like you can trust a company, you'll be able to share a lot more of your information and you feel comfortable, and nowadays everybody's so concerned about customer experience, and I think just security is the basic foundation of that. If I visit your home and I feel unsafe, chances are I won't come back.
Yeah.
Or I'll try to leave as soon as possible. Whereas if I feel secure in that environment, I might want to expand, purchase other products, invite other people in and say, this is a great company. So we really try to encourage companies to look at data protection as a customer experience and respecting the customer. One of the analogies I always use is if somebody walks into your shop, you don't just start petting them down and checking what's in their pockets, what you can use for your benefits. You really treat them with respect and offer them a seat and so on. But when you meet a consumer online, why is it different? Why do you try and get whatever you can from them just because it's online? Their personal data is a digital representation of who they are, and you should treat them the same consideration that you would treat it if a person physically walked into your shop. And then cybersecurity is obviously such a big issue, and it's one of the pillars of data protection is security, cybersecurity and data security. So you can't really achieve data protection unless you have the basics of cybersecurity and data security.
Yes. Have you watched The Social Dilemma?
Yes,
so it speaks right into what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it quickly? I just want to diverge a bit, segue.
It's very difficult because it also raises a couple of dilemmas for people like myself who are privacy advocates, because we obviously utilize social media for marketing purposes and to reach customers. So we do want people to be on these platforms. A lot of people have watched it and just said delete social media. And I don't think that's the solution. I think the solution is that online platforms have to come to the party and start being responsible, because we've reached the stage where we can't go back.
Yeah.
We're so far into the online world, we're not going to all of a sudden all delete our apps and no longer. And the governments, I think they're always trying to play catch up because technology progresses at such a fast pace that lawmakers are not
with it.
They cannot anticipate until something happens, and then they have to be reactive in developing laws to. You talk about the social dilemma. Then there was the Cambridge Analytica scandal that came out previously. And what really spurred action from that is that it touched on elections, which politicians are most sensitive about. Yeah. So it really made them want to act because they want to protect their chances of being re-elected. So that was maybe a blessing in disguise. But I think we have to educate children, especially teenagers, around the use of social media, and I think parents should really watch it to understand the impact of how it shapes, especially a child when they're still developing, shapes their view of themselves, which is really sad. When I watch that, I thought that was really sad. There's so much that we can do. As Bahati Tech, we've done some programs around online security for children, and we are going to continue doing those, helping parents just understand, because a lot of parents nowadays, they just give a gadget to the child.
Yes.
Go in the corner, don't make it.
Here's your iPad.
Yeah, just play on your iPad. And you might even think that they're using safe app, but there's a lot of really dodgy characters that are on the lookout for children signing up on these apps. You might think a simple app like Instagram is safe, but it's not. Anything that has a live feature where a child can go live and somebody can join, somebody can view, can be exploited by people who want to use it for wrong purposes. And sometimes children are afraid then to say to someone, this happened, or they think they did something wrong. So I think as people who are responsible for children, you really have to keep up to date with what we can do to protect children, and I'm hoping that the laws become more stricter in terms of punishing people who do harm children. And also these companies, and if you are building an app, really be responsible in how you use the knowledge, because they are trying to get you to spend your entire life on the app. That's how they monetize the app. But it has such an adverse impact on society, and it's something that you can't take back. You know, the impact that Facebook has had, for example, on the world, you know, on a scale, from good to bad, you know, would you say it has had a positive impact or a negative impact, depending on where you sit. You might have different opinions, but the bottom line is they can't take it back. They can only try and do better going forward if they want to. and why should they want to? You know, these things are driven by shareholder value as well, where shareholders want to continue seeing their stock rises. So it's a very tricky situation that tech finds itself in. But fortunately, there are so many people who want to use technology for good and who want to see a better society come out, especially people who have been in those companies, people who have seen the adverse impact of AI and machine learning and how it can actually cause harm rather than good. So I think universities, when you teach students about automation, AI, machine learning and so on, we really should re-emphasize the ethical programs. I know when I was doing my degree at UCT, we did like a very, very short module on ethics, and it was just like, just go do it quickly, you know.
That's it.
It's not really emphasized, and it's really undermined in general, you know. Everybody just like, oh, that module, just get it over and done with so you can get your degree. But we really need to focus on ethics and helping people, because some of these things don't come naturally, especially to young people, especially if you've grown up in this culture of using these apps, which have already shaped their view of the world. So there's a lot of challenges that we face.
You also spoke about having a social impact and making a social change. You also, I think you founded a foundation called GIFT, Girls in Fintech. So what does GIFT do exactly, and is it a community or is it an upskilling program?
So the GIFT Foundation its core value is to create fintech to be a realistic career choice for girls, fintech in particular, but tech in general. So we provide training in tech skills, teaching girls to code, but also financial skills, and then bringing all the other fintech components into it. And our focus is really girls, young women and teenagers from informal settlements. We started off in the informal settlements here in Langa, but we're expanding into other townships and rural areas. We really want to see young women having an impact in that space, because in the fintech, especially in South Africa, it's a very white male dominated space where most of the founders of these apps or products are white men, but the target audience that they serve or they want to serve is mostly African women, and it's across the continent. And there's two challenges with that. It's that sometimes these products are developed in a vacuum without the proper context of how these people will actually utilize it. And also, you know, you want the people to be part of the product that will serve them. And also, I believe that if they are part of that process, if they own that process, they can probably develop a lot more innovative solutions because they understand their community much better than anybody else coming from the outside. So we always joke that fintech solutions, you know, sometimes they look like a and paste because they're so similar. You know?
Yeah.
So many of them are sending money home, you know, just different versions of doing that. And there are so many other needs that are there, which somebody who is in that community might identify and be able to articulate more succinctly. So that is the fundamental that we do. And then now during COVID-19, obviously because it is in low income settings, those girls or those women, they don't have access to Wi-Fi and their own computers to be able to continue training virtually. So when we went into strict lockdown, we had to put it on hold. And then we started looking at what are the other challenges that they are facing in their families that we could assist with. And a lot of them had either parents or older siblings who have their own businesses. So small scale entrepreneurs, but who trade doing face-to-face transaction-based businesses. Okay. So they either have a cafe in the township. Now they can't do anything, and it was almost 6 months of solid lockdown where they could not work. And a lot of these businesses are the type of businesses that don't get support from government because they are informal or they don't have all the necessary documents and so on. So we started a digital enablement program to get them on digital platforms, to introduce them to ways in which they can market and transact, pivoting their traditional businesses to be to expand beyond what they were doing. So that went very well. We just completed our first cohort, and we'll have our virtual graduation this week. Actually.
Amazing. How many women?
We had 50 SMMEs.
50?
Yes.
Wow.
50 SMMEs that we've trained, and they've all pivoted. And what was really fantastic for me is that we didn't put an age limit on it, which is what sometimes these programs have. We just say anybody can apply. So we had women who are in their 20s, we had women who are in their 60s, who have never, some of them have never even had an email address.
Yeah. And
we had to train them from just the basics. And it's amazing how much we take for granted. Sometimes we know that there's so many people on the internet who we can reach out to and market to. But some of these women were saying, I never knew that there are so many people in South Africa who are on the internet.
Yeah.
And I always thought the only way to get customers is to print pamphlets and hand them out in my community. So there's a lot of work for us to do to be able to build businesses in this country beyond the spaces that we move in, the communities that we've built, thinking that is the scope of tech. There's a lot of people who need empowerment, not just verbal empowerment, but who need people to give them skills and tools and opportunities for them to grow themselves and establish themselves.
So you've obviously been involved in the software development and cybersecurity space for a while. What drew you to that environment? Were you always mathematically inclined? Did you always love computer science? What was it that really drew you to this career choice? Or exposed you to it, actually?
I don't know if anybody has always loved computer science. But yes, I was good in the maths and science subjects at school. So it was one of those opportunities. I think when I started studying in varsity, it was more of a popular choice. I almost didn't know what I was getting myself into, but once I was
which happens most of the time.
Yeah, but once I was there, I guess I liked it and I decided to stay.
Awesome. And I ask everyone who I've interviewed on the channel, but what does feminine leadership mean to you?
Feminine leadership to me, it means being authentically female and not trying to emulate male characteristics or male values. As women, we have our own characteristics, and I think that is our superpower. We should always lead with that we can never beat a man and be a man, but they can never compete with you based on the values and the things that you bring to the table. So being authentically you, I think that's the most powerful thing.
Love that, that's so beautiful. Now we move into a segment I like to call the ABCs of your career. So A, what was your affluent, amazing aha moment in your career?
I think that kind of flowed. I don't think I had a moment which a light bulb went off. I think perhaps my aha moment, I can say everyone who's in computer science probably wants to go to Silicon Valley at some point. It's sort of our maker.
Yeah.
So,
Grail.
yeah. So I always wanted to go, but I always thought it was beyond reach for some reason. You know, we always have these mental blocks that we have in our head. And when I got the opportunity to go, I didn't just go as a tourist, looking at the buildings from outside, but I was actually in a program where I could go inside, sit down with the CEOs or the founders of all these high-tech companies and be able to engage with them and speak to them like I'm speaking to you now. So I think that helped me see that there are so many possibilities and really there are no limits to what I personally can achieve in this industry.
Yeah. B, what was a bad business blunder turned to blessing?
You know, in entrepreneurship, we face obstacles all the time. You just have to roll with the punches. So if I had to stop and count all my failures, like I'd be sitting down the whole day just listening them. So I really don't stop to count my failures. Like I always know that there's something next. I think the key learning for me has been, never think that you're losing an opportunity. Sometimes you lose an opportunity and you really feel down because you thought that was it. And the trick that I've learned is that opportunities are limitless. Like there's always going to be the next thing that comes up. So I just roll with the punches. I actually never stopped to count how many times I failed, because if I did that, I wouldn't be doing anything else. I'd just be sitting crying, counting.
And C, what was a cinematic, comical moment?
Well, I always get people sending me emails or letters calling me like Mr. Dlamini. I don't know, for some reason people think I'm a Mr. And then they get surprised when they see that I'm a woman, especially people from outside the country. I think when you are leading a company, people always assume it must be a man. So there's always those funny moments when you respond and then you say, actually, I'm a woman. Or even better, when they meet me in person, and then there's been so many funny situations when they're like, we expected like a really big person. You look so small. You look so young.
You look so small.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I always just smile, brush it off, and keep moving. I think our society has so many preconceived ideas of what a leader looks like, what a business owner looks like, what an entrepreneur looks like, or should be addressed. If you don't know the agenda, you just assume automatically that they're And what I've done now, when I send letters or emails to someone and I'm not sure their gender, I always first assume the feminine.
Miss.
Yes, or just say dear man, dear madam. And if it's a sir, then you know what, countless women before him have been misgendered. So.
Yes. I love that. I'm doing that going forward. If I don't know, hi madam. I love that. So now we're going to just end off with the quick fire questions. It's just answer the first thing that comes to the top of your mind.
Okay.
So, morning or evening?
Evening.
Wonder Woman or Catwoman?
Wonder Woman.
What is one thing in your daily routine that you could not live without?
Coffee.
What 2 books have you read that changed your life?
Whew, just 2.
I know, it is limiting. You can have more if you'd like.
I think the magic of thinking big. As a businesswoman, I read a lot of non-fiction. Sorry.
Don't apologize. I love it. And we're encouraging you to talk about failure and business and entrepreneurship and leadership. Listen.
Yeah, the magic of thinking big. I think from a business point of view, and then the monk who sold his Ferrari.
Okay, by Robin Sharma, and finishing the 5 a.m. club now, actually. And who are 3 people that you would love to have at a dinner party? They can be dead or alive.
Michael Jackson.
It's the second time he's been featured in this, actually.
I like him. He's petty, but
he's petty.
with a undertone sarcasm, you know. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you. So I think I would get along with him at a dinner party. And then the second person would be Michelle Obama. And the third person would be
And share. Interesting tackle. I'd love to know what conversations would go on there. And since we are having the tea with Nikki, what is your favorite tea?
I like lavender.
I've never had lavender tea.
So I went to Turkey a few years ago and I stocked up on all their teas because that's what they do. They drink tea all day.
Yes.
And that's where I discovered all these different kinds of teas. But lavender is really good. I know a lot of people, especially if they want to calm down, they drink chamomile. But lavender is my favorite.
Awesome. But thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so sorry about this morning run around, but it's been so lovely sitting, speaking with you and hearing everything that you're doing and everything you've done and helping 50 women in their SMEs is just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I thoroughly enjoyed that interview with Nobukhosi. It was so interesting to hear someone's opinion about the social dilemma who works in the data protection cybersecurity space. Also hearing everything that she's done with regards to pivoting her business, how she's helped other women to pivot their business. And I love her take on how she addresses misgender by calling anyone that she doesn't know their gender man. I think it's something that I definitely want to carry on. I think it's kind of love. I think a key takeaway from what Nobukhosi said is that if we sit and count our failures, we'll just sit all day and just cry. So keep your chin up and keep moving forward. She applied to the program going to the US to be in Silicon Valley 4 times and was rejected 4 times before finally getting the yes and going. So keep chasing, keep hustling and be fearless.